Hello, and welcome to another update video about Solana. Let's talk about the two probable scenarios that I'm tracking here on the Solana chart. And I will also tell you about a structure that I don't prefer, that I find quite unlikely, quite unreliable, but it's one that I think you should know about. First of all, let's start with the preferred scenario, with the most likely scenario in my interpretation. And that's the yellow scenario. In this scenario, we topped in a larger degree third wave here around the 18th of March. And as you can see on the chart, we have a 5-wave move to the downside. And it is a wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 4, wave 5. So we've got 5 waves down. The problem is that the last move down that started here around the 23rd of April, it was an ABC structure. But all of these could be, okay, also here, A, B, C. So we have 5 waves down, but every wave is a corrective wave. That makes it possible that it's a 5-wave move down in yellow, in wave A of 4, in a leading diagonal, okay? 5 waves down always have to alert us that something different might be going on. Or not something different, but that something else is coming to the downside, basically, okay? The problem is, if it's not an impulse to the downside, but just a questionable diagonal, it means the structure could easily shift and change. I want to just make sure that you understand those potentials, even though it might seem confusing. But if you think, okay, it has to be this, then you might take too much of a risk or something. But preferred count would be that we had a 5-wave move down, even though it's a bit questionable, because you can never really trust diagonals. It can always be something different. And then we are now basically in a B wave, yeah, which could be A, B, C, and B. And then we come down in wave C to the downside. This is one way of interpreting this structure. In this scenario, we have started wave B with the Wednesday low, which was formed around $118.80. We're basically now moving up in wave B, yeah, and we completed already, or we are about to complete wave A of B. There's no strong sign that the B wave pullback has started. We've seen a small pullback, okay, but it's not strong enough to really be reliable. And if we get further downside today, specifically a sustained break below the last low at $135.40, then yeah, that would suggest wave B of B is unfolding. And if the pullback is corrective and we're holding $123.50, it should be a setup for higher. Not a reliable one, because we're dealing here with, yeah, overall a corrective rally, okay? And B waves can be short, they can be long, they can trick people. So that's one scenario. One reason why this is not a highly likely scenario, even though it's possible, is that an A wave can also be a 3-wave move. In this scenario, we have bottomed in an ABC structure in wave A. We've seen a B wave rally already, which was quite weak. And we're now starting the move down in wave C as an ending diagonal. Wave 1, 2, and then we would break down, okay? So that's why, I mean, we have to consider that we might be breaking down already. So if you make a bet on that higher B wave, just be aware it could break. I mean, anything can break. It's just that here probabilities are fairly balanced. I am leaning towards short-term higher. I think a higher B is quite likely. And bear in mind that B waves can even overshoot, okay? So they can even overshoot. They could even go to a new high. Right, so just something to consider. If we get more clarity about the microstructure, possibly today or tomorrow, then I will talk about that obviously in the next updates. We have our, if you want to stay up to date, we have our gold membership. I mentioned yesterday that I will communicate the support area if I see it. Things like that would be communicated for gold members. Some of these updates are also published on X, on Twitter. Not many of them though. There are far more in the gold membership. But some, as I said, are updated on Twitter, X network. Here, for example, yesterday I posted, I think, something about Solana. So it's all here anyway, so you can see that. Feel free to follow us there. Also, I want to push that more and more. There will be one dedicated video for a coin that I don't cover on YouTube, just on X, to get a few more people over there, because it's important to be decentralized, okay? It's about being able to communicate with you guys if something happens on one platform. I think it's just wise for risk management purposes to think ahead there, in terms of, who knows what's going to happen. Sometimes they ban an account for no reason, or at some point YouTube might decide to not allow you crypto content anymore, whatever, So it's important to check that out. So let's go back actually to Solana. And these are the two scenarios I'm tracking. I prefer the yellow count, in which we go higher short term, okay? I, at the moment, don't prefer, even though it's possible and also likely, the white count. But I don't really have a very clear reason why I wouldn't also prefer that, because probabilities are very balanced. But for me, it's like when I see 3 waves down, it doesn't indicate clearly that, for example, here, the direct path downside has started. Okay, it's like, right, it looks to me more like a higher B wave. It is even possible that if the A wave bottomed here, this B wave is unfolding as a wider flat. So I basically have 2 variants of that B wave that allow for higher, but I don't want to make it too complicated. I think what you need to remember is $123.50. That's sort of at the moment the line in the sand. If we get a sustained break below it, the trapdoor starts to open, well, into the middle of that support region down there, maybe even the mid $70 region then. There is one more scenario that I wanted to talk about. This is not the preferred scenario. There is a very, very rare correction, which is called WXY. X, Z, or Z, depending on where you are in the world. And in this scenario, the overall correction could have completed here. And then we would now start to go to new highs. I don't see that as very likely. This would be a potential if we had already come down very deep in this correction, where we haven't. And if Solana really had maxed out what it could do in this correction, which it hasn't, these corrections usually don't appear, and it's more likely to consider this as a 5-wave move down in wave A of 4, or as a 3-wave move down, but then with a wider B wave flat, for example, or at least the other variants that I showed you, not so much this one. Just, of course, it's possible that the entire correction finished here. If you want to play that, again, you could just use that last swing low, the Wednesday low. But that would also be like the absolute make or break point here at around $119.50 for the higher B wave. So it's the same thing. If it then extends further, then we know, okay, the correction finished here, or it's simply a high B wave. I think bottom line is $123.50 is the line in the sand which distinguishes between bullish and bearish momentum. That's what it boils down to. And below that level, the very, very clear invalidation point is it's actually a bit higher, it's $119. That should give you everything you need. Hope you liked the update. If you did, please hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. And if you really like the content, then please check out the channel membership. Also, make sure that you follow us on Instagram and Twitter for additional content. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye-bye.